Welcome, everybody. Hello, hello. We'll be starting in just a couple of minutes. So thank you for being early to our session about the importance of human connection. Just before we get started, whilst we're waiting for others to drop in, have a look outside your window. What do you see? I'm looking at blue skies and sunshine in sunny Harefield, which is not far from Uxbridge in West London. Excuse me. So I'd love to hear what's happening outside of your window. You feel free to drop a message into the chat, or even feel free to jump on the microphone if you wish to. And we'll be starting in about a minute and a half.
I'm actually pretty close, and it is sunny outside my window too, so I'm quite enjoying it.
Fantastic. Excellent. For everybody else, also just a reminder that this is an opportunity for us to have connection with other human beings. So if you don't already have your cameras on, I encourage you to do so, particularly as the session starts, so we can talk to other real human beings, not just initials on a screen. So whenever you're ready, if you could put your cameras on, that would be amazing. Wonderful. Can see a few of you. And we're starting in about 30 seconds. We've still got people dropping in, so we're starting very shortly. It's great to see so many of you have got sunshine, particularly in the UK. I know we get an audience from all around the world. I read something, I think it was last week, that we'd had rain every single day this year up until sort of end of January or something. So it's very welcome to have some blue skies and sunshine.
Yeah, very muddy when you have a dog.
Yeah, I feel your pain. So how many of you have noticed that you can feel more distant or disconnected from others when you're stressed, under pressure, feeling overwhelmed, but you're more likely to distance yourself from those around you? Yeah, absolutely. I can see quite a few people's hands going up. So absolutely. How many of you find that during busy or difficult periods, meaningful connections and community is the first thing that tends to slip? You're more likely to withdraw, disengage, and find yourself by yourself. Yeah, absolutely. See, again, quite a few hands going up. But how many feel confident in how you show up for others and how you work to create a genuine sense of connection and feel part of a community? Okay, not quite so many hands. And the data supports this actually. You know, we've observed and recorded a significant decline in a sense of community over the last 60 to 70 years, which interestingly directly correlates to the increase in mental health conditions and suicidality. There is a close connection between the two. In fact, for those of you who've been to some of our webinars before, how many of you have actually been to one of our webinars before, by the way? Lots of people returning. Fantastic. How many here for the first time? How many have never been to one of our sessions before? Great. A few first timers. Well, you are very welcome, whether you are here for the first time or returning for more of our wonderful sessions. The key point here is that there's been research done on what are known as blue zones, where people in particular parts of the world, there's about 5 remaining blue zones, tend to live longer and have happier, healthier lives and have higher levels of vitality towards the end of their lives than in other parts of the world. And what's their secret? Because often these are not places that have, you know, supermarkets and hospitals and Amazon Prime and everything at their fingertips. Some of them are in quite rural, remote places. Yet they've got better life outcomes than some of us in Western developed society. And there are a number of different areas, but one of the key foundation pillars is community. There is a direct connection, correlation between a sense of community and human longevity and quality of life. I live in London, proud born and bred Londoner. What I'm not proud of is not last year, the year before, in 2024, we won the award of being the loneliest city on the planet. 9 million people live in London. Yeah, it can be one of the loneliest places that you will ever visit. And this is really what we're here to talk about, is the importance of human connection, not just for winter stress, but for human vitality. I think obviously it's relevant at all times of year, but I know that winter for some of us can feel pretty challenging. And particularly, as I said at the very beginning, I was away for Christmas. I got back on the 5th of January. I had 3 weeks in the tropics, came back feeling completely recharged. And then from there, had about 4 weeks of grey and rain every day. And after a while, it starts to affect you. My partner went on to India to do her yoga teacher training. So she was away for 4 or 5 weeks. So I was home by myself, very busy at work, and the miserable weather really started to impact me. And I found myself withdrawing. And this is really where some of the things that we're going to explore today are things that I have a first-hand experience of, and I'd really love to get into a discussion around how we can do better to support particularly the most vulnerable members of our societies and our communities. Just a reminder, as ever, our sessions are recorded. This is just for people that can't make it in person. I know we had several hundred people that have signed up. So far, we've got about 75 of you live. This will go out to those that weren't able to attend live. And also, you will get the recording so you can share with friends and colleagues should you find that's useful for them. Just a reminder of who we are, for those of you who don't know. I run an organisation called the Stress Management Society, which is a non-profit organisation I set up off the back of a breakdown and an attempted suicide in my mid-20s. And after setting up the organisation, we have been campaigning hard to raise awareness around issues around stress and mental health. We're now in our 23rd year. We're really proud and grateful that through campaigns like Stress Awareness Month, which is every year in April, we'll talk about that later, we've reached more than 100 million people over the last 2 decades. So that's on the charitable side. And we also have a research consultancy arm that works with all kinds of different organizations. Some of our biggest clients include companies like Mars, where we're running international culture change programs and deliver programs like our Mental Health Champions program. So on both sides, we're basically here to create a happier, healthier, more resilient world. And today is an opportunity for us to really discuss and explore some important subjects to empower and inspire you to be able to make a positive difference. For all of our non-commercial activities, we can only continue doing them because of the generosity of people that interact with us. So if you are able to support us in any way, every small donation really helps us to continue to provide the resources, materials, and these platforms for people to be able to connect with us. So there is a QR code on the screen, and my colleague Judy will put in a link as well, should you want to just click through the link. So yeah, please do get involved, have a look at our resources on our website. Feel free to share them far and wide. This session is not a lecture, it's not a webinar, it's a workshop. And that means that we are going to have an opportunity to have a chat and to build a sense of community. For the next 53 minutes, we've got an opportunity to interact with like-minded people that are here wanting to do better, wanting to take away the information that's shared in this session to be able to make a positive difference in the world around them. We can make a difference if we're able to take some of these ideas and use them. And this is really why I want this to be an interactive session. Get involved. This is your session, not mine. You invested your most valuable resource, your time, in being here today. Some of you are probably doing this over your lunch break, maybe eating your lunch whilst you're in this session just to be able to be here. But make use of it. Ask your questions, share your thoughts, your experiences. Disagree, seek clarification, whatever you need at any point over the next 52 minutes now. Myself and my wonderful co-pilot, Judy. Give us a wave, Judy. Are here to support you throughout this session. So if there's anything specific you need, or if you need support, if you've got any questions, you can either just put your hand up and unmute yourself to share a microphone, or you can drop a message in the chat. And Judy will be monitoring all the dialogue in the chat and bringing that into the discussion. Okay, also just a couple of ground rules just to ensure we've got a safe space for this discussion. we have a tiny amount of time. An hour is nowhere near long enough to be able to explore this very big subject. So let's make the most of this time. I encourage you to be present. This is not something you can do in the background whilst working on a report on the other screen. Be present, limit distractions if you can, turn other technology off or silent. I'm going to put in a trigger warning. The very nature of the subjects that we explore means that we are likely to explore things where people's mental health has been really compromised, or even potential issues like suicidality. We do have a case study today of someone that was suicidal, so I'm just putting that in as a trigger warning. Participation. What you put in over the next 51 minutes will determine what you take out. If you sit there passively, say nothing, do nothing, camera off, don't get involved, you're not going to get much value from today's session. So do your bit, get involved and participate in the discussion. Openness, honesty and respect. Whatever is shared here is welcome. If you don't like what someone shared, you don't agree with it, that's okay. They're entitled to their opinion and you're entitled to yours. You don't have to agree with each other. In fact, we learn and grow when we hold differing opinions and different perspectives, and we can kind of understand each other better. Have an open mind and an open heart to new ideas, new suggestions, new ways of doing things. When making statements, I encourage you to use I statements. I believe, I think that, in my opinion, rather than speaking on behalf of others. We do ask for this to be a safe space. So if you hear something in this conversation, whether you're watching it live or as a recording, please don't share it outside of the safety of this container. This container extends to those that are watching this as a recording. The only time confidentiality will be broken if someone mentions anything in this call that impacts your safety or the safety of others. If you have any questions or anything you'd like to share around the ground rules, please feel free to drop a message into the chat or jump onto the mic. And yeah, as I said, like, that's just to ensure that we all have agreed to how we hold this collective container to have this discussion. So before we go into kind of exploring the subjects in more detail, I do want us to just spend a bit of time establishing kind of the data that supports this. You know, we were involved with some research in 2018 with Mind and a few other charities that basically deduced that loneliness was going to be one of the biggest mental health issues affecting British society by the year 2024. It happened several years earlier because of COVID. And as a reaction to that research, the government actually put in place a government minister for loneliness. I kid you not, in Britain, we have a government minister for loneliness. But since then, the issue has got much, much worse, not better. So let me bring Judy in. Judy, do you want to just talk us through some of the data we've got here on this slide?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, great. So I thought you'd take a step back from the personal reflection and look at the bigger picture. And as we can see, the evidence shows that loneliness and low social support are widespread and have a real effect on health. And globally, 1 in 6 people report feeling lonely or socially isolated. Just take a moment to let that number sink in. So people who report low social support are more likely to experience high stress and psychological distress as well. And this connects back to what we discussed earlier about stress and withdrawal. And so loneliness doesn't just feel bad, it actually affects our mental health too. On the other hand, strong social connection can be life-saving. For example, research shows that people with supportive relationships are 50% more likely to survive. And we can see that connection impacts not just emotional well-being, but also physical health as well. And as Neil mentioned earlier, briefly, so in 2022, London was named the loneliest city in England. And just let that sink in for a moment as well. How can someone feel lonely in one of the busiest cities in the world?
And Judy, what I found really interesting, the 1 out of 6 globally feels lonely or socially isolated. There are many parts of the world that still do have a sense of community. So if we've still been able to get to a high figure like that, if we looked at it in urban settings or in countries like the UK or the US, I'm sure that 1 out of 6 will be much, much higher. So this is really something for us to consider, that how we've arrived in a world where we are potentially technologically better connected than before, but more people are feeling lonely than ever before. And I think the first thing we need to establish is there are two very different things that we're talking about here. The difference between being alone and being lonely. So, what do you guys think? What is the difference between being alone and being lonely? What are your thoughts around this? Go for it, Elaine.
Yeah, hi, I'm Elaine. So I'm a digital support officer at Civil National Business Centre in Northampton. So the difference of being alone is actually you're physically alone and you don't really have any family or anybody around you, any close friends and things like that. So you're isolated in that context. But feeling lonely, you can have 100 people around you. You can have a whole community around you that, you know, believe that they support you and people that believe that they're there for you, but you can still feel lonely.
Absolutely. I can't remember who said it, and I'm probably going to butcher the phrase, but it was something along the lines of the loneliest place to be is in a room with 1,000 other people, or something to that effect, anyway. Now, how many of you ever had that experience where you are in a room surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of people, and you feel like you're completely by yourself? And I think that's the experience a lot of people in London are having by the fact that we won that award. That it's not that having people around you that gives you that sense of connection. And also, there are times where I felt more deeply and intimately connected to everything and everyone, even though there wasn't anyone around. In 2003, I climbed, I went to the Himalayas to attempt to climb Mount Everest, and there were times where there probably wasn't another human being for many, many miles around me, but I felt a deep sense of connection. Even though I was alone, I did not feel lonely. And this, I think, is the key thing to establish. It's not that we need to have a lot of people or any people around us to feel a sense of connection, but equally, you can be surrounded by lots of people and feel no sense of connection. And I think this is where anti-social media probably has a lot to answer for, because the way we connect has changed, not just through social media. Again, being a Londoner, what I've noticed over the last 4 or 5 years is people don't go to restaurants and bars and places of congregation anywhere near as much as they used to. My local village, I live in West London, a place called Pinner, which is near Harrow. All of the local independent restaurants and bars have all closed down. The only things that remain are the chains, and even the big chains have shut down. There is no more Costa. Cafe Nero was there until a few weeks ago. That's shut down as well. People don't go to these places of social congregation as the way that in the ways that they used to. And the classic places of congregation, like the churches, temples, mosques, the pubs, they're not being frequented anywhere near as much. So people aren't creating those opportunities for real human connection. And then we did have the opportunity to at least connect with our work colleagues. But how many people are now working remote or hybrid? So they don't even get the opportunity to congregate in a work setting. What is the impact of this? What is the impact of the fact that even though we're still talking to lots of people all the time, we're not really having opportunities to congregate in moments of true human connection? What have been your observations, particularly over the last 4 or 5 years, where the ways that we connect and come together in social settings has changed quite dramatically? Who'd like to share from their perspective or their experiences?
I've found the digital world almost one of the most stressful things I've had to go through. And connection to me is not over through a screen or an email. But then I'm of the older generation. And the reason I am here today, I wanted to come in before, but I couldn't make myself heard, was that I'm quite happy being alone. I was brought up to cope with that. But I have felt lonely because I have lost close friends. I have no family. I have nobody to talk to at all about things that are troubling me. And I don't see any way of dealing with that at all.
Firstly, thank you so much for being open and vulnerable and honest. I can't see your name. I've just got an initial. Would you mind sharing your name if you're comfortable with that?
My name is Helen.
Helen. Firstly, I just want to say thank you, Helen. And you're right that this is, and the irony is that we're here talking through a screen. However, like obviously we're doing our best to be able to reach people and connect with people, but also to share some practical things that we can do to change this. Because how many of us do get through a day without actually having a real in-person connection with another human being? Particularly if you're working from home and you're kind of ordering your groceries online and getting your stuff delivered to you, it's very easy to get through a day where you've got no direct human connection. And yes, we're making our lives easier in one way, but actually we're creating huge challenges in others. And I think this is, Helen, you've raised a really, really good point. I see another hand up there. Teresa, go for it.
Hello.
Teresa, you're on mute.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
There you go. Loud and clear.
No, I'm working in CNBC in Northampton. I'm the mental health lead here. So in terms of feeling alone, I think it depends on the situation that you're in at the time. Certainly in terms of grief for myself, and going back to 2020 when COVID hit, I lost my mum. There was no support, as you know, everything closed down. I had nothing or nobody. I couldn't even have people in the house or even at the funeral or everything. It was just an impossible time. So, and I think over the years, as the lady was saying earlier, the connections have come from the use of technology. There is no sort of social interaction. There's no youth clubs anymore for children to go and interact with each other. They all want to sit on their, whatever it is, their consoles. So the conversation interaction is all done on, over that. And no one's sort of getting together and speaking and connecting with each other anymore. And I felt that a lot. And in terms of what you were saying earlier about some people living longer in different countries, I do believe, certainly for myself, that sunshine helps me massively, mentally, physically. You wake up, everyone feels it's an uplifting experience to be in the sunshine. Like certainly today, I've been out for a long walk at lunchtime just to soak up the sun. And it certainly makes you feel better across the board, I think. So yeah, I just wanted to add that. I could talk all day, but I'll stop now.
Thank you. And I'm coming to Sean in just a second, but I just want to just touch on this point around the youth. What we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years is a significant increase in mental health conditions and suicidality amongst particularly the 15 to 29-year-old demographic. Now, this is actually really scary. The fact that, children should be allowed to be children and have the opportunity to understand how to build those level of social interactions, to communicate, to be out like playing and scraping your knees. I don't remember a point in my childhood where I didn't have scabs on my knees, whereas a lot of kids don't get to go out and play and climb trees and ride bikes in the ways they used to without their parents, helicoptering over them. And I'm not sitting here in any way, shape or form suggesting how people should parent their children. But what I am saying is we have to look at the reality of the situation. We have a real concern around youth suicidality and youth mental health, which never existed before in the way that it does now. So clearly something has gone wrong, particularly over the last 4 or 5 years, where we've seen progressively the data that's coming out from organizations like the NHS getting worse and worse and worse. And part of this is that we do need to look at how do we foster and rebuild that sense of community. Go for it, Sean. Let's hear from Sean, and be interested to hear from the US perspective as well from you, Sean.
Yeah. No, thanks, Neil. I appreciate it. Absolutely. I don't think it's a coincidence that we see these reports coming out about the screen time and that correlation between youth mental health and conditions. So, and certainly I think we are trying to be wise about recommending the reduction of screen time, especially for younger children and school age children, and even for young adults. We know that the brain is still developing well into, 20s. So with all of that being said, let me also just say, bless you, Helen, and thanks for sharing. I will say that the notion of being alone and feeling lonely, kind of the feeling loneliness obviously is an emotion, is a perception, how we perceive our feelings and being connected or not. It's more of a subjective feeling, and the aloneness can also be a physical manifestation or an objective way of just kind of being disconnected from community and resources that you can connect to. But at the end of the day, whether you're physically unable to connect with people or just perceive and have a subjective feeling of being isolated, it all ends up the same, not having the ability to express those connections as social beings. So yeah, I know I don't want to sound like the old guy screaming at the lawn, but I know I talked about, like, when I was young, yeah, we had the ability to go outside and play and skin our knees and things like that. And so we have to find a way to balance modernity with some basics and get back to basics, connect the generations, young folks to. I was fortunate enough to know my grandmother, my great grandmother, and believe it or not, my great great grandmother. So I'll stop there, but no, thanks. Thank you, Helen, for sharing that. That's so critical. Over.
Well, thank you for saying that. I'm isolated. I've created that isolation myself because I can't bear going out not knowing people. It's pathetic, and it's something to do with age. I am ancient. I'm an old bat.
And I think part of this is that we have developed.
Humor.
And Helen, part of this is that we have developed a culture and a society where we're encouraging people to think of themselves rather than think of others in a sense of community. That in itself is where we've got to. It's my thought, my perspective, my belief, what I want, rather than we think collectively. And again, if we study areas in the world where they've got this right, the so-called blue zones, and those you're interested, there's a really wonderful documentary on Netflix to talk about this in great detail, is that they do basically live and look out for each other. There is that strong sense of community, which is a basic human fundamental need. And this is really where we need to consider what happens when we disconnect and what happens when we choose connection, because there are significant differences to our life experience when we have that sense of connection, which can be built very quickly, by the way. We tend to find that some of the feedback and comments we get from these sessions, which are an hour long, when people write to us and they email us, they say, we really, really felt that was so powerful for us to have that conversation collectively, that we can create that sense of community very quickly, because many of you will feel that by the end of this session. And we've heard, Helen shared her thoughts, and Sean's come in, and several of you will share before we finish, and you'll start to feel that there's a growing sense of community. And this is something that I feel that we need to stop waiting for people in positions of authority to fix. It's something we can take the matters into our own hands. You all have the opportunities to be ambassadors for your community, to start creating meaningful connections with every human interaction. Because when we choose connection, it has an impact on your mental and emotional health. Jane, I'm coming to you. I can see your hand has gone up, and I've got another one. Can't see your name or see your face, but it says unknown user. But I'll come to you guys in a second. We can think more clearly. We tend to be less reactive. We are less likely to resort to aggression and anger. Your energy and your mood lifts almost to the level that Teresa described. When the sun comes out, it's kind of like the sun shining inside when you feel a connection to those around you. You are going to sleep better. Your body feels calmer and safer. You are less likely to resort to short-term dopamine hits. Where are we getting our dopamine hits from? That cup of coffee, the cigarette, alcohol, food, sugar, doom scrolling on Netflix, on Instagram, watching Netflix, sex, masturbation, pornography. The list goes on, where many of us are reaching for a hit to feel something, because we aren't getting to feel those feelings that we would get when we live in a sense of community. Does that make sense? And I literally remember times where I've been away on holiday, where I've been with other people, and I haven't even thought about my phone. I've not thought about checking social media, because I'm so present in the moment with the people that I'm with. I ran a retreat this weekend. There was about 30 of us, and I was holding the space. Again, I didn't think about my phone once, because I'm there with other people in community. But when we disconnect, everything feels heavier. It feels like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. your thoughts become heavy. And you then go on to Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or whatever your social media drug of choice is, or you pick up a newspaper or turn on the television and something's happened in the world. Someone's done something. Someone's been arrested. Another war has started. Donald Trump said something, whatever. Like something has happened in the world around you. The way that you react to it is going to be very different when you feel like you're dealing with that by yourself. Does that make sense? And as human beings, we are naturally tribal. We are drawn to people that think and behave like us, which is why we are more likely to relate to people that might, support the same football team, have the same belief systems as you, etc. It's that sense of connection. I am able to associate with like-minded people, which is often why people come out of these sessions feeling that sense of connection, because we're like-minded people. We care about making things better for ourselves and those around us. Stress becomes amplified. You're more likely to become reactive when you feel isolated and disconnected. Your energy drops. You won't sleep as well as night. You're not going to feel as optimistic. You see problems, not solutions. You will stay more tense, and everything feels bigger and heavier. Jane, go for it. You've got your hand up. I'd love to hear from you.
I am sorry, and I don't know if I'm sure this is the space for it, but going back to what Helen was saying, and I hope you don't mind me saying this. I was volunteering as a befriender in the area where I live. I live in North Essex, and I've been a befriender over the phone, and I've done it in person as well. And I do it for a particular charity that it's for everybody. It's for 18-year-old plus people who are just lonely, can't get out because they're stuck indoors, and they just can't get out. They've got no family, if they're particularly the younger ones with mental health problems. But I hope you don't mind me saying, but it's so nice. I've met some lovely people along the way, and if there was anything like that you would be interested in your area, I would totally recommend it, because I mean, I can send you some information if you want me to. Equally, I'll shut up. But I just, when I was listening to you, I was thinking, oh, is she near me? I'll go and have a coffee with her, because it's just a really nice thing. It was lovely for me as well. And I must say, I don't actually, at times I do feel lonely, but I've got quite a good network around me. But I know so many people get so much out of it. So I just wanted to say that if it was something that you might be interested in or consider.
Thank you very much, Jane. I'll be quick, because otherwise I'll take over the whole of this hour. I've done a lot of voluntary work since I moved to the area I live in. For one reason and another, some of those I've had to drop. And I have, interestingly, started to look for voluntary organisations that I'm actually have an interest in. I await a reply to a couple of those. You are absolutely right how important voluntary work can be. It does help if the voluntary scheme that you join actually is recognised as a tribe you belong to.
And absolutely, Helen, that's a really good point. And I think that's a really nice segue to the question I want to pose to you. What makes it so difficult to reach out in a world where we are hyper-connected? You've got access to everything and everyone at the touch of a fingertips. It was easy enough when we just had Google and social media, but now we've got AI as well. You've got access to everything in a fraction of a nanosecond. Yeah, we're feeling lonelier than ever before. What is the challenge? What is the barrier? What is the difficulty in people reaching out for real human connection? To the point where what I've seen, something recently that scared me, is these AI friends and AI boyfriends and girlfriends, where you can literally create a fake avatar type character that you're having conversations and texting backwards and forwards with. Even though there's 9 billion people on the planet, there's a lot of people resorting to communicating directly with technology rather than other human beings. I've got. I can't see your name or your face. It just says unknown user, but you've got your hand up and it's showing as a number, the first person. So if you'd like to share, feel free to do so. If you could start with your name, that would be great.
Hiya, sorry, I tried to put my name on here, Neil. My name's Simone.
Hi, Simone.
Hiya. Hope everyone's well today. Yeah, what a great discussion. So for me, loneliness is where I feel misunderstood, and I can be surrounded by so many people, including family members, but I feel like the alien of the family, and I always have done. And I think a lot of, I think a lot of it's linked to BPD, where I've always felt very different. And even though surrounded by people, I've always had this sense of, I really am. I know we're all standalone warriors. We are, we're born alone, we die alone, really. We're all unique, but I always feel lonely. No, I don't actually always feel lonely. There are times when I don't feel lonely, but for me as well, connection is about healthy connection, because you can end up going places with people to feel connected, but you still feel so lonely because not meant to be there. And it's like, I've been joining these meetup groups lately, meetup groups online, social groups. I'm 42 and I'm still single. Well, I'm single for many reasons, but unfortunately the people have been lovely, but I've had nothing in common, and I've gone away feeling really disappointed, really sad, and really like lonely. Why am I doing this to myself? But what does help me feel not lonely is when I feel connected to nature. So like earlier, I feel when I'm in nature, I feel completely connected. I feel enriched. The trees are like my friends, the birds, the sky, the air. And then when you see people out walking the dogs, we always smile at each other, perfect strangers. That's when I don't feel my loneliness. And when I'm chanting, doing my Buddhist practice, I feel completely connected and not lonely in that moment. So, yeah, thank you very much. I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Simone. And I think, at the core of it, you've actually answered the question of what makes it difficult to reach out. Is often we're self-sabotaging ourselves because we're fearful of judgment or being rejected or people not wanting to connect. So we stop ourselves taking the action that leads to connection. And that in itself can mean that we end up with a self-fulfilling prophecy. Hey, Dawn, how you doing? I saw your hand up. Go for it, my friend.
Yeah, I'll put it down, Neil, actually, because I think Simone's covered a lot of it. I think, it's that allowing yourself to be vulnerable, isn't it? And allowing other people to see and actually maybe not liking what they see. And I think some of it, we just touched on, it's the unrealistic expectation you put on yourself. And I think social media plays such a big part in that, because how many times do we look at something and compare what we see, even though it might not be reality, because we all know that people can put filters on and sometimes it's AI generated. But I think that for me can make a big difference on, do people feel brave enough to sort of show up as they are?
And that in itself is a really good point. Like, let's say Dawn is team no pineapple on your pizza, and I am definitely team pineapple on your pizza. And there'll be a point in the past where we would just agree to disagree, right? It's like, yeah, all right, Dawn, you don't like pineapple on your pizza. I can still love and appreciate you. But now, roll forward to 2026, cancel culture, someone holds the wrong opinion or a wrong view. Dawn is the enemy and must die. We need to put Dawn in a concentration camp and take out 7 lines of her family generation because she wants to take pineapple off the pizza, right? That might sound ridiculous, but strangely, that's the world we seem to have found ourselves in. We could have supported different football teams, had different political persuasions, different religious beliefs, different societal views, and agreed to disagree. Whereas now it's the person that holds the opposing view is the enemy, which again makes it difficult to open up and reach out. Because what if people don't like what you're saying or what you believe in, and you could then face strong consequences as a result of that? So absolutely, and I think this is part of the fear that a lot of people have to really express themselves. And I know I've faced that. There's times where I've held views or opinions, particularly in around the COVID period, where it's like I faced a strong reaction. Rather than let's talk about it, let's understand each other, let's listen to each other. that doesn't feel like it's the case anymore. So this in turn means that there are a lot of people that feel disconnected or isolated, and people are struggling with mental health. Again, there will be a reaction. If you put your hand up and say, I'm feeling depressed, we still have a lot of stigma, guilt, and shame around issues around mental health. So again, people don't reach out. They don't put their hands up. They suffer in silence. Go for it, Sean, and then Veronica.
Yeah, just thank you, Neil. Just looking at the question in the center of the page, what makes it difficult, just really quickly, what makes it difficult to reach out? Because it's so easy not to now. I think that's what makes it difficult. And you had touched upon it earlier about the chat bots and the virtual mates and things like that. I mean, and I think Simone and others touched upon it in terms of the fear of rejection. I mean, we always have that off ramp where we can avoid that, where socialization requires us to have those wins and losses. With every technology, there should be a black box warning. In the medical field, when a new medication comes out, there's always a black box warning. So we were all delighted with the with what the efficiency rather, and that came with all of the technology, with social media, with being able to do everything virtually. But we didn't offer the black box warning that, be wary of this because it can lead to X, Y, and Z. These are the side effects of the new technologies. Oh.
Absolutely. And I think this is the thing, we're starting to learn retrospectively the impact of these technologies rather than thinking about this in advance. And I know that there are certain areas in the world. I know Florida's kind of changed the laws around social media use for under 16s. I know they're talking about that in the UK and Australia as well. And I am very much a libertarian, but I think there are some things that we need to consider. There is a deeper impact, particularly amongst children that don't really understand the consequences of being heavily invested into social media. So again, this session is not about social media bashing, but we need to consider that there is an impact, because the ways that we're reaching out and connecting isn't replicating what we need as human beings. It's not really nourishing us at a deeper level. Go for it, Veronica.
Well, we're talking about connections to others, but I think to start off, I would say that we can do a lot ourselves first, which is
absolutely
living a more mindfulness life. I think a lot of people don't look around them, are mindful of what's, in nature, go out into nature, just even eating something, just to be present in the moment. And I think if you start that way and you feel more connected with yourself, then go on and try to connect with others. But I think what we could do all a lot more for ourselves if we just would be more mindful with what's around us. And even if that is just in your own, sorry, Helen, if I come back to you, and I hope you don't mind me saying that, but if you in your house, in your apartment, you look outside, you see the birds, whatever you see, just try to be more present in that moment. And then, because if you do that, then you become more present with yourself, and that will help you already with your mood. And then from there onwards, try then to reach out to others. It's not easy, I know, but I know for myself that if I'm more mindful, it definitely helps me with my mood.
Thank you, Veronica. And it's really interesting. You posed a really interesting point of discussion, but your point is very much chicken and egg. What do I mean by that? When you are more connected to self, you are more likely to want to and feel desire to connect with others. When you have a sense of connection with others, you are more likely to feel that sense of wanting to connect with yourself. Does that make sense? When you feel that you've got the support, it allows you to be more present. So which comes first? And this is very much which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Both support each other. You need both. You do need to be able to connect with yourself, as well as feel the sense of support from those around you.
Absolutely. But I think if you in yourself are more connected, it's easier then for you to make that next step.
Of course.
It's a personal thing, but, it's obviously everybody is different.
Absolutely.
But I think yeah. Sorry.
And that's why I say chicken and egg. For some people, it's the sense of connection with self that comes first, which leads to connection with others. Other people, when they feel supported by those around them, that gives them the safety to be able to go inside, if that makes sense. Particularly those that are not comfortable sitting with themselves because they may be carrying grief or trauma or loneliness. Being by yourself can be quite a terrifying thing. The hardest thing that I've ever done in my life, and I've climbed mountains and run Ironman triathlons and run marathons. The hardest thing I've ever done in my life is a Vipassana, where I sat on a mat for 10 days in complete silence with my own thoughts. I, to this day, have never done anything more difficult than being by myself with my own thoughts for 10 days. What I'm suggesting here is, yes, there's tremendous power in it. But again, what I'm here to say is Veronica's absolutely right, but we need to consider what is going to be the most supportive thing for you as the starting position. Feeling connection to others, or are you able to find the place where you can connect with yourself? Let's move on to the science behind connection, because this isn't just a nice idea. It's not just something that makes us feel good. There is sort of science that supports this. And because Judy is far cleverer than I'm going to ask her to talk us through the science, if that's okay with you, Judy. So what is the benefit? What is the science that supports the benefits of human connection?
Okay, so what we can see is so social safety, that can help kind of calm the stress response. So basically the importance of being around people. And then also like with connection, so the more you spend time with people, that releases a hormone called oxytocin, which happens like either when you get a hug or when you spend that meaningful time with everyone.
What does oxytocin do, Judy?
It releases that happy hormone that makes you feel good.
And am I correct in saying it's often connected to feeling bonded, which is why, if I got this correct, a newborn baby will have immediate skin-to-skin contact because it helps and supports the bonding process.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, also with the co-regulation, that strengthens resilience. So for example, humans can regulate by spending that time with each other. So I don't know if you guys have noticed that sometimes being around a friend or a family member, if you've been feeling stressed or something, just being around them, that can help regulate that emotion. So for example, it's a way they speak, so that calm tone, or having that eye contact, for example, or sharing a shared experience that can help, regulate your emotions.
So there was something on that point, Judy. I just wanted to share something that I read not that long ago about this Japanese concept of ma. And ma is like, if you're upset or angry, and even if you're, say, upset or angry with someone you care about, you just sit with them for 3 minutes in silence. No television, no phones. You're just there. You're not talking. You're not engaging. You're just sitting with them in silence. And that really supports this sense of co-regulation, where we're, even if we're angry at each other, we can find ways to be able to rebuild that sense of emotional connection without even using words. And I came across that idea and I was like, I'm not so sure about this. And I tried it and it works, because you're in a place where, yes, I might be feeling strong emotions, but I am creating space while still being connected to the people that I care about. So yeah, and that's something, as I said, like co-regulation is something that really does help when we are feeling that sense of overload, isolation, or anger or frustration. Yep. And what's the last point around belonging?
So basically having that sense of belonging protects your long-term health. So it can lower risks of depression, it can improve your immune function and increase longevity. So basically, if you reinforce that connection, it can affect your physical health as well as your mental health, which some of you guys mentioned in the comments as well, like how going for a walk helps you. And yeah, so connection doesn't remove those challenges, but it changes how the body carries it and how the mind responds.
Fantastic.
I also just wanted to give you guys a trigger warning, as Neil mentioned, before we move on to the next slide.
Thank you, Judy. So I just wanted to talk through this. This is a real life example. There are more stories of this nature that I've heard over the last 2 decades than I can keep track of. But yeah, sadly, this is the world that we live in, and this is really why we've got to the point where suicide is one of the main causes of death for 15 to 29-year-olds on planet Earth. It's the main cause of death for a man under the age of 50. It's because we are so lacking in that sense of community and human connection. So there was a charity founded by, in memory of an individual called Sam West. It was created to reach people in moments of suicidal crisis, and it's just literally about sort of sending letters, and over 867,000 letters have been sent so far. And the idea is that a letter is sent to a complete random stranger, anonymously, to allow them to feel that sense of connection, that there's somebody out there that actually cares, because a lot of people don't feel that anybody out there cares. And it's just simple human words of support can reduce that sense of isolation. Even a letter from a random stranger. Connection doesn't need to be complex. It doesn't need to be difficult, but it just needs to be a message to show that someone out there cares. Someone out there thinks that you matter. Small human acts of compassion and care and kindness can actually create a huge impact. And part of this is that whole concept of pay it forward. If someone says something nice to you, say nice to someone else. You know, show that those moments of compassion towards your fellow human being. When you're out for your lunchtime walk, say hello to the people that you walk past. If you happen to be in a big city like, you know, London, Manchester, Berlin, Washington, New York, or wherever, you say hello to a random stranger and they look at you like, what? Like you've tried to pick their pocket. But the more you're exposed to human beings being nice to each other, the more it starts to become normalized. Right now, talking to a random stranger could result in a strange look. But I make sure I do that every day when I go for my lunchtime walk. And some people say hello back and some people won't, but that's okay, because I have done my bit to be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. Because feeling less alone can be the critical shift in a difficult moment. Someone that I interviewed for my podcast many years ago, someone I actually consider has become a friend of mine, a guy called Johnny Benjamin. He wrote a book called Stranger on the Bridge. Really, really wonderful guy. And basically, it's a long story, but he was in a mental hospital in London after a series of issues with his mental health. Eventually he arrived at a day where he was just like, I've had enough, and he escaped from the hospital, you know, proper hospital gown on, bum hanging out the back of it and the rest of it. Ended up on Waterloo Bridge, climbed up onto the bridge, Waterloo Bridge in London, for those who don't know London, over the River Thames, and was getting ready to jump off the bridge. It was rush hour. It was 9 o'clock in the morning, if I remember correctly, and hundreds of people must have walked past, looked up, seen someone on the bridge with a hospital gown on, looking like they're about to jump, and they just carried on walking because they didn't know what to do, or they didn't feel that sense of, I want to get involved, or a sense of connection to him or the situation. So they just carried on about their day. One person stopped, a guy called Neil, who was basically the stranger on the bridge, that ended up having a conversation, talked him down, encouraged him to get off so he could have a cup of coffee with him. And that person, that stranger on the bridge, is the reason that Johnny is still alive, has become such an incredible campaigner for mental health. The point is that that individual, Neil, who talked him down, was the stranger that we all need in our lives. The person that just shows that they care and they're happy to give you a few minutes of their time and to have a conversation, whether that comes through an anonymous letter or a kind word or just reaching out. You could be the difference. You could have the conversation that saves someone's life. So this is what I'm talking about. Connection at its most human level, not dramatic, not complicated, just real. So I kind of felt that we were going to run out of time because it's a big conversation. But just before we finish, has anyone got any examples or would like to share a moment when connection made a difference to you? It could be where you were going through something and someone reached out or said something. It's an unknown user again, so I'm assuming that's Simone.
It's me. Sorry, I tried to put my name up, but it wouldn't
No
let me, so-
worries, go for it.
Thank you. Yeah, so the Samaritans, ringing the Samaritans, I've rang them I've rang them on and off over the past couple of years, and that connection with the Samaritans, this is also a suggestion for people that are feeling really, really lonely and need connection and need to talk to someone. The Samaritans are absolutely fantastic. And it really made a difference to me. And I always get through to the right person. So yeah, me feeling misunderstood for years and years, all my life, the Samaritans understand. And I'm not saying that there are people out there that don't understand. We all seem a very understanding bunch here today. But the Samaritans, and they're just amazing. So yeah, that power of that connection there. Thank you.
Thank you. And it takes literally a minute to be able to reach out. Whatever time you've got, don't overthink it. Know that whether you're receiving or giving that moment of connection, those little moments can make a difference. And the more of these moments we build into our day, the more opportunities for real human connection, whether that's even asking the shopkeeper that's serving you checking out your vegetables, how they do it and what's going on in their lives, or the Uber driver that's driving you to your destination, or whoever it may be. That in a world where real human interaction is diminishing, a minute at a time can be all that it is required to be able to make a difference. So, and we're going to encourage you to do that as part of your homework. Choose a person you're going to reach out to. Drop them a message, whether you're sending them a message or reaching out for a phone call. And for the purposes of this exercise, we're going to encourage you to choose at least one person you're going to message just to reach out. How are you doing? What do you need? How can I be there for you? Just a simple question that's going to ensure that they know that you're there for them. And we have put together a purple paper, which is our tongue-in-cheek equivalent of a white paper, to go into more detail than we have the time to cover here today. Judy's going to put in the link into the chat. If you click on that, you'll be able to download that with lots more reading and ideas and information to support you in building more human connections. As I mentioned at the outset of the call, our big campaign is starting in just over a month's time on the 1st of April. It's our annual Stress Awareness Month campaign. The theme this year is #BeTheChange, where we get to show up as the change agents to make the difference around us. We are looking for ambassadors to join us. So if you want to share the benefits of the Stress Awareness Month campaign in your community, in your organizations, the role of ambassador is to be able to use our resources and just to really spread the word with the people that you're in contact with. So if you'd like to join us as an ambassador, Judy will put her email address into the chat. It's on the screen as well. You can reach out to her. She'll be able to share all the resources with you, and we will have support meetings for our ambassadors every month as well to ensure we're able to best support you in spreading the message. So her email address will come into, even better, she's got a sign-up page. Judy's very efficient. So yeah, please get involved. And even if it's just for yourself, share kind of what you're doing on your social media channels. Use the 30-day challenge resources as well, and you'll find them all on the website. Okay. So there we go. There's the links there on the screen and in the chat. So definitely get involved if you can. For those that want to do more, become a mental health champion. Looking around, I can see we've got several of our champions here on the call today. If you're interested in finding out more about how you can learn the skills to be able to change the world one conversation at a time, again, there will be a link for the Mental Health Champions program coming into the chat in just a second. And the next month's webinar is going to be the official launch of Stress Awareness Month. So we're very excited for that. So that'll be on the 25th of March. If you'd like to join that one, and again, the link will be dropping into the chat in just a minute. This is the final opportunity to participate in our Global Stress and Mental Health Survey. We've got lots of goodies that our partners have given us to support this process. So if you want to be involved and be in for a chance of winning some of the prizes that we've got available. Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link that will come into the chat. A few minutes of your time to help us to understand your experience really helps us to build this picture of where we are with regards to mental health around the world, and use that to be able to support actions that we can take to make a positive difference. And also, if you've enjoyed today's session, you've got benefit from it, please leave us a review on Google. It helps more people to find us. Again, link in the chat coming in just a second. Given the nature of today's discussion, I just want to raise awareness. There are lots of resources available. Simone's already mentioned the Samaritans. So there's their website and there's a telephone number there. There's Hub of Hope. There's Mind. If you're in Australia, there is Lifeline. In the US, dial 988 for the suicide and crisis line. There's a global organization called Befrienders, which was referenced earlier. I can't remember who mentioned that, but you can check out befrienders.org as well. And then there's crisistextline.org, which is for US, UK, Canada, and Ireland. You can just send them a text and they'll be able to text you back. So there's lots and lots of resources there should you need support. And you can also check out our website, which is www.stress.org.uk. So let's just kind of check in. So what stood out to you about this conversation we've had around human connection? What feels more possible for you? What questions, comments, or things would you like to share before we close our discussion for today? What are you taking away from this discussion? So over to you. Go for it, Dawn.
Hi, yeah, I think for me, Neil, it's just a reminder that the smallest interaction or connection with somebody else can just make their day, make the biggest difference to them. And I think we sometimes underestimate that. So it's just a great reminder of that for me.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be grand gestures. The smallest of things, the simplest of questions could make the biggest difference. Thank you. Go for it, Sean.
Yep. I think maybe Simone or someone else mentioned it, but what resonated with me about walking the dogs and getting up and getting outside. So my takeaway is to get up, get out, and more importantly, get out your comfort zone across generations. You know, don't feel like you have to stay within your small tribe. We know we are all tribal by nature, but venture out, make a connection, get up and get out.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, and something just as simple as "Are you okay?" is just 3 words that people will interact to if they feel the need to. And also, going back to what you were saying, Sean, about going out your comfort zone, doing something new. You're never too old or too late to start something new or a new activity. And for me, it certainly really has helped me mentally in all the problems and issues I've had. If I feel like now, if I'm healthy physically, I'm healthy mentally. So yeah, I'm all up for go out there and do something that you've never done before.
Fantastic. Thank you, Teresa. Alistair, I think I saw your hand up.
So yeah, I was just to reinforce really some of the basics and you know what everybody was saying in terms of the simple steps that we can take ourselves to sort of improve our sense of connection. And yeah, that just literally just stepping outside into the fresh air, taking exercise, and sometimes that sense of connection doesn't have to be to a human. Even though I'm happily married with 3 kids, I get some of the best connection I get with my dog. So yeah,
absolutely. Hugging your dog releases as much oxytocin as hugging a human being. So yeah, I'm totally with you. Deborah, I've just seen that picture. That someone sent that to me on WhatsApp the other day of this poor little monkey that's been kind of disconnected from his tribe and how much connection he's just getting from the teddy bear. But yeah, absolutely. Any connection with another creature. But also, it's interesting the tree hugging hippies, that they were onto something, because now the research is showing actually being in nature, the negative volatile organic compounds that you're exposed to being in nature or from hugging a tree also do have a positive physiological effect. 15 minutes of which is enough to totally reset the nervous system. So yeah, absolutely hug a dog, but hug a tree as well. Why not? It works. There's physiological evidence to prove this now. Go for it, Maggie.
Yeah, it was just to say that I think as well, if you're the person that's going out there trying to be that little bit braver and smiling and saying hello to people, it's to remember that you might not always get the not to let yourself react as if you're being rejected, to just keep trying, because these things
Absolutely.
take time to change, and it may be that somebody needs to be smiled at a few times before they feel comfortable to start interacting themselves. So just that comment.
Maggie, it's a really good point. Don't do it because you're expecting a response. Do it because you could make a difference, even if they don't react in the moment because they don't know how to, or it feels uncomfortable. At some level, they've received that and there will have been an impact to it. So if we do it with the expectation of something in return, it's not unconditional. And really, this is about showing unconditional positive regard. I'm expressing, you know, compassion, kindness, and empathy towards you with no expectation of anything in return. But thank you, Maggie. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Wonderful. Thank you. I always love these sessions because we get to have some really beautiful conversations and come together in a sense of community. And I think this is something that we all need to be spending more time in. And I'm hoping that you can take even a couple of the seeds that we planted here and nurture them to the point where they actually start bearing fruits for you in your life as well. We'll be back again on the 25th of March for our next session. Really hope that you can be there. Spread the word. If you've enjoyed today's discussion, when you get the recording tomorrow, feel free to forward that to friends and colleagues. And in the meantime, if there's anything you need help or support with, use the links that have been shared with you in the chat or come into your inbox tomorrow. And we'll be absolutely happy to support you in any way we can. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll see you all very, very soon.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Go for it, Nicola. Nicola, I see your hand up. If you've got a question, feel free to jump in.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks, everyone. Brilliant
Thank
session.
you.
Take
See you
care.
next time, Simone.
Bye. Thank you.